What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to another video. So yeah, look, you have seen the title of the video. That's right, my favourite ever sports photo, and in fact the only sports photo that I have taken, that I have framed on a wall in my house, was taken on a phone, on my old Samsung S7 to be precise. It's one of my favourite photos. Today I'm going to talk to you about why it is, how it came about, and just a bit of a story, I guess, to show you that sometimes the best photos don't always come from the situations when you think they will. This is going to be a great video. I can feel it. Let's go. As always, guys, you guys can probably say this bit for me now. Before I get into the content of the video, I am going to ask you to go do one thing for me, and that is to go hit the like button. It helps me out loads. It's really interesting, right? It shows you how my previous video, where we didn't talk about pressing the like button, I got so few less likes. And I know it's because you guys aren't out there hating the video. It's just because you forget to do it, right? And I know how easy that is to do. I forget when I'm watching some of my favourite YouTubers myself. So please do help me out. Take 1 second, go press that like button right now, because it helps me out loads on my channel. It helps my videos, it helps my channel, and it enables me to keep on doing this and making more videos and growing the channel for you guys. So thank you very much for those of you who have already done it, because I know loads of you have done it right now whilst I've said it. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Loads of other videos on my channel, loads more still to come, which I think you will find interesting. Don't forget to go check out my social media channels. You can find me over on Instagram. You can find me on all three of these channels I'm going to put right here on the screen. At Rob Sambles, at Rob Sambles Sport, which is the main place to see all of my sports photos, and at Scorchers Photog, especially if you're interested in the basketball photos. Go check those out. You can find me on all three of those. You can find me on Twitter as well, at Rob Sambles Photo. Go check me out over there, comment on some stuff, tell me that you came from YouTube. That's probably the place where I interact with you guys the most, through Twitter and Instagram, and that's really fun. So make sure you go follow me over there, and we can have the conversation that rolls off the back of the videos or my photos or whatever else it might be. Right, enough about that. Let's get into the video. So this whole, I guess, photo has come about. You guys know that I spend a lot of time photographing Fulham. I photograph Fulham Academy. I quite often would do their first team games at Craven Cottage in the Championship, for an agency, and various other bits I do with Fulham as well. Now, a lot of that is a situation that I consider myself to be very blessed with, because I'm actually a Fulham fan. My dad was a Fulham fan, and he pretty much told me at a young age that I was too, and I've gone from there. And I've followed the team for years, so the fact that sometimes I get, as part of a job, to go and sit pitch side and photograph their games, I really do consider myself to be very lucky, and it's an awesome situation. It's funny, sometimes it isn't necessarily the best game watching experience, because when you're at the end, there's a lot of time in your laptop and focusing on what's going on, and sometimes you don't really register the game. Like, you know, I'll go and work a game, and afterwards my dad will text me and say, hey, how did they play? And actually, apart from the score, I don't really have much of a measure of that, because you don't necessarily watch the game. You follow the action through a little window this big, and you spend a lot of time in your laptop. So it isn't necessarily the best game watching experience. And that is why a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, God, the actual year, it must have been in the summer of 2017, it must have been, or would it have been 18? Anyway, Fulham got to the final of the Championship playoffs with a chance to be promoted to the Premier League. And I decided that rather than working that game, I would go and I would get some tickets, and I would take my dad and I would take Mrs. Sambles, and we would go to Wembley and we would watch that game. So we did just that. Mrs. Sambles isn't necessarily a direct Fulham fan, but she kind of is inadvertently, and of course, you know, my dad is already. We had good fun, and whilst I was in there, as you always do, right, photographers are no different to anywhere else. When you just go out and about and you're around the place, you don't always have your camera with you, but what do you always have? You have your phone. So like anyone else, I was taking a few snaps here and there. Literally just any random thing as you do on big days out like that. Grabbing a few photos. I filmed a little bit of a video. I'll put the video in right here for you. So you see what I mean? Lots of little random clips and snaps. But whilst I was there, towards the end, I thought, you know what? I want to capture this moment because it was one of the best days ever. And actually, it probably was one of my best days I've ever had, like out and about. It was so good, especially to be there with my dad and Fulham won. Those of you guys who don't know, got promoted to the Premier League. It was such an awesome day. And I thought, you know what? I want to get a big proper photo. So I used on my mobile the panoramic mode that you can put it in, where you literally, like, you take your photo and you go along and it takes a panoramic image. And I did one on my phone of the whole stadium of Wembley with like the arch in the background and everything. Didn't really think much of it at the time. I just wanted a photo that I would have. But when I had a look at it later, I felt like it came out fairly well. And the initial image straight out of my phone looks like this. I'll put it into the video right now. Yeah, so as I said, I was quite happy with it. I liked the shot. There's that big kind of black triangle thing in the bottom right, which is actually a flag that's been kind of waved across the frame and caught at an awkward angle, and actually been accentuated because of the sort of the way the panoramic works. So I decided I'd have to do a bit of work, and so I went to town and I did a bit of editing, and I filled some of that gap in with some crowd background, and so I had to change the photo a little bit. I wasn't worried about doing that because it was a personal photo for me. It wasn't like it didn't have to have any kind of journalistic integrity or anything like that because it wasn't going out to news outlets. It was just for me at home, so I felt perfectly comfortable changing that, and I straightened it up a little bit and darkened down the sky so you could see the archway a little bit better in the background. So I did that bit of work. I got into Lightroom and Photoshop and fixed some of the mess, and I also decided a big thing that I felt would really kind of enhance the atmosphere of that photo was to make it black and white. And the reason behind that was because I kind of already was picturing in my head perhaps a black frame with a white mount, and then the photo, because I thought it would look really cool. So I did that as well, and I turned it black and white, and it's come out, and don't worry, I'm going to show you guys in just a second. It came out as being my favourite photo I've ever taken. And look, rather than carry on talking, let me show you, and I'm going to put it on the screen at the end, don't worry, so you'll see exactly how it looks. Because I'm conscious you're going to get loads of reflection from my massive light that's over here. But this is the photo. And look, technically it's not the best photo, right? There's bits like out of focus, it's probably a bit of dark over here, there's lots of motion blur in these flags and stuff over here, perhaps is a bit messy, composition perhaps isn't as good as it could have been. But ultimately, because of the moment that this photo represents to me and the memories of this day every time I look at this photo, which I'll remember forever, it was such a great day. It is hands down my favourite photo that I've ever taken at a sporting event. And no joke, it's the only sports photo that I've taken that I have up on the walls in my house. I've got little ones like, the covers of programmes and stuff up here behind me. But in terms of like a framed photo on the wall of my house, this sits in our hallway, so I see it pretty much every day. And I wasn't working, I was a fan in the crowd at the game, but it's the moment that it represents for me that just makes it, my favourite ever image. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now so that you guys can see it a little bit better. So that's the final shot. You can see what I mean, where I've adjusted the bottom right there with the crowd background and taken out that big old flag, and there's still the mess of the other kind of black things sticking up, which are flags being waved around, but I like that. It adds to the atmosphere and kind of the action in the crowd, and you can see I've darkened down the sky. Used a little bit of kind of darkening the corners and up the contrast and lots of other bits with the photo to kind of really sort of bring out the image. And yeah, it just goes to show that sometimes the best sports photos aren't necessarily like peak action photos. They're photos that enhance a moment or a memory. And that's why I thought it would be a cool thing to talk about in today's video. And speaking of today's video, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found the story interesting and I didn't just bore you to death with my own personal stuff. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please take that second, go hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. And I will see you guys on the next video, which I know now and I can tell you will be on Wednesday next week. I'll see you on Wednesday.